everyone. Happy Friday. We made it. And welcome to Ask Kate Anything. I was just explaining to my sweet guest, Vaneese, that I maybe need to rename and rebrand the show a little bit because really it's all about the wonderful guests that I bring in that bring their expertise, their energy and time and advice to share with us. So I would really like to introduce this month's special guest. She is Vaneese Johnson. She is known as the Boldness Coach. She is an award-winning speaker, certified career management coach, personal branding strategist, and a small business consultant. I've had the pleasure of being able to engage with Vaneese at a variety of different professional events and one-on-one, and she is this wonderful ball of energy and boldness. And I'm so excited to bring her in to have this conversation because she's going to give us some little insights in how she became the Boldness Coach and how we can incorporate more boldness in our lives. So without further ado, welcome Vaneese Johnson.
Good morning, Kate, and hi, everyone. I'm so super excited to be here with everyone, and I'm looking forward to this conversation. Kate, let me just say, I feel like such a celebrity because you have just been promoting. People have been sharing and commenting about it, and it's just like, ooh, I need to hang out with Kate more often.
I do love marketing and branding. Is probably one of my favorite things about being a business owner. But I was so thrilled when you accepted my invitation. So thank you again.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Well, let's dig in. Okay, so there's a couple things that I think would be helpful to clarify for everyone. For example, what is boldness? And why is it essential for our personal and professional success?
Boldness, when you think of boldness in the traditional sense, you think of somebody who's aggressive, you think of somebody who is overbearing, but that's totally not what boldness means in this context. So boldness really means you owning who you are. It's really accepting who you are, where you are, and leveraging yourself from that position of wherever you are. So if you're in a career role and you're like, I've been doing this role for some time now and I want a promotion. Here's the reality. No one's going to come down the hallway or send you a Zoom meeting link and say, hey, would you like to be promoted? You have to really step into that and feel like I own this. Boldness is about developing your confidence. It's about you identifying your uniqueness and leveraging that into an opportunity for you, no matter what facet of life that you are engaging in.
Ooh, I love this. And so it's also really about being your authentic self, really identifying what it is that makes you unique and special, and then being confident in the way that you present that to the world. I just love that very much. Tell us a little bit of a personal story that led you to become the Boldness Coach. I've been breathing down your neck to ask you this question, and I've been trying to save it for when everyone can listen so you don't have to repeat it.
I know.
Tell us your story.
I know. Let's get your coffee, get your tea, because I'm about to spill some tea and some coffee.
Yes.
It's so funny because you and I were talking, in the green room before this happened, and it was like, that's pretty ballsy to be like the Boldness Coach. Where did all this come from? So here's the reality. So I went through a divorce, some year, not 9 years ago, almost 10. And I went through a divorce. And at that moment, I was at the crossroads. Prior to getting married, I had this flourish career. I've been an entrepreneur for 28 years, going into my 28th year full time. And so I had this burgeoning career. I had this really, 7-figure business. Life was good, right? And then all of a sudden, life happened. And so when that divorce happened, it wasn't on my schedule.
Right.
List, right? But nonetheless, life happens, and that's how life is, right? So what happened, Kate, was I was like, what happened to my life? What happened to me? What happened to that spark, that tenacity, that assertiveness? I really kind of just shrunk myself to be in a role because I thought that was, I had to choose between one or the other, right? And I know people in the comment may say, "Well, never shrink yourself for anyone." Let me tell you something. That's easier said than done. Because some days you
Mm-hmm.
wake up and you're like, how did I get here? Because you don't wake up saying, oh, I want to shrink myself.
Right. Right.
But because of the interaction that you have and how sometimes you really work towards being liked, being wanted, being needed, being appreciated, being seen, being heard.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you work towards that, you will automatically trigger yourself into a shrinking mode if that's what you're seeking, right? Which is something that in reflection I was seeking from that relationship. So after the divorce had happened, I was really thinking about what's next for me, what's next in my life.
Yeah.
This could be someone who loses a job. This could be someone that loses a parent or a loved one in their lives. This
Right.
could be someone just at a particular journey, crossroad of a journey in their life. They're like, okay, wait a minute. I know what I used to do and I know who I used to be, but looking towards the future, what does that look like for me? Right. And
Mm-hmm.
so, nonetheless, I was having lunch with a really amazing friend of mine. And we were at lunch, and I was just like kind of in this stupor. And she was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so what's next for you? And I was like, girl, I do not know what's next. Like, I don't even know where to begin. She asked me a really important question. And any of you that are listening, I hope this rings somebody bell today. And this is something you do today going forward.
Ooh.
She said to me, if you were a guest, and you a guest at a party, you were invited to a party, and they asked you to bring a dish, what dish would you bring? And importantly, what would you want people to be saying about your dish after the party? I was like, ooh, what is
Ooh.
it that I want to bring? And I was like, I would bring a dish of being bold. I would bring a dish of boldness.
Mm.
She was like, okay, and what would you want people to be saying after they had that dish? I want people to feel confident. I want people to feel like they have the audacity to do something
Yes.
different and to be something different. And I want, especially women, I want women
Yeah.
to take a chance and step into the next level without any permission needed. And so
Yes.
from that point, Kate, I pondered that because I even surprised myself. So I want your
Yeah.
listeners to really ask yourself that question. If you were a guest at a party, someone invited you to be a guest and they asked you to bring a dish, and the dish you brought, you want it to have a lasting effect on people. You want to impact them, inspire them. What would your dish be? So
Mm.
after, I talked about that, that seemed like good girlfriend conversation, right?
Yeah.
So then I said, if I could put a bow on this being at the party, I would want women to walk away feeling being bold, big, and bad. Now,
Yes.
the old saying is, I think it's bad, bold, and big, or something like that. But so I inverted it
Mhm.
to bold, big, bad. So I was like, okay, that sounds catchy. I don't want it to be a cliche. Like it needs to mean something. I really want this to
Right.
mean something. So
Right.
as I'm driving home one day out the blue, I think it had been a few days after I had, met with her, and I'm ruminating in my mind about, what was going on, the past conversation with her, on an occasion. So I'm driving down a highway. I live in Northern California, San Francisco Bay Area, and I was like, the radio was off in the car, Kate. And I'm driving and I'm like, boldness, boldness. I'm like, if I want, women to be bold and people in general that I serve to be bold, then who do I need to be? Let me tell you
Mm.
something. It was like out of a sci-fi flick, out of a spiritual, you know, out of a like Marvel flick, like it was almost like
Yeah.
something came down and like put a lightning rod in the middle of the highway. And it's my
Oh.
exactly, my spirit said to me, Vaneese, you're gonna be the boldness coach. I was like, say
Yes.
what? The boldness coach? Who has the nerve to call themselves the boldness coach? Like, I mean, how audacious could you be to say the boldness coach? The spirit was like, you're the boldness coach.
Yes.
So it was so funny because I didn't tell anybody for a few days because I was like that is that a thing? Is that like
Right.
possible? So I went and Googled the boldness coach. Out of all the 7 billion people in the planet, nobody was claiming the boldness coach. And I was like, you have got to be kidding me.
What?
Exactly. You have got to be kidding me, right? So
Yeah.
then I said, okay. So I went and bought the domain name. And then I said, okay, but as the boldness coach, what do I help people to do? And it was like being bold, big, and bad. So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, now what does that mean? Right. So
Right.
I want to pin this for a second. Anyone that's developing their personal brand, right?
Mhm.
Slash professional brand, it's really important that if you are choosing a brand position, that you
Mhm.
need to qualify the brand position that you're choosing. Not just because something says good, sounds good and sounds clever and sounds different. It really
Right.
needs to be inherently and uniquely you.
Yeah.
And so the
Easier
boldness
said
coach.
than done.
Right, right. So that's why my hesitation for a while to really kind of embrace it, because I'm like, I
Yeah.
needed to really look at the facets of my life and my personality and who I really naturally am. Right.
Yeah.
So as I pondered bold, big, and bad, I did some legwork to figure out what did I want this to mean, in the world. And it went through several
Right.
iterations. But where we are now and the iteration, the truth of it, it lands so perfectly right now, Kate. So everybody, bold stands for becoming out loud daily. That
Okay.
has to do with moving from the lower level of potentiality to the higher level of actuality. We
Uh-oh.
all have potential, Kate, to do a whole lot of stuff. We all got potential. But how do you got to move that potential to the higher level of actuality? So you got to move from the state of dreaming and thinking and wondering and even the state of manifesting into the state of actuality. You have to
Yeah.
really step into that and become who it is that you say that you are. Get out of your comfort
Right.
zone. Get out of complacency, right? And what you're used to and comfortable with. Stop talking about it and start to be about it.
You
And
know
then
what I think? Oh,
mhm.
sorry. I just had this thought. Like, I think it's so interesting that there's this catalyst to your story, right? It's the
Yes,
divorce. For
yes.
me, coming into my boldness, it was divorce, but before that, it was
Mhm.
becoming a mother.
Yes.
I just like all of a sudden had no idea who I was anymore, and
Mhm.
everything that I thought was about me was different. So I just wanted to point out or ask you, is a catalyst necessary for us to like be able to have that extra push to go grow into our boldness, or do you think it's something that we can like shift our mindset around? Do you
You
understand what
know,
I'm saying?
oh,
A tricky
absolutely do. A
question.
catalyst are necessary. It's like, trial by fire. Because
Yeah.
here's the deal, without a catalyst really, inviting us to question, without a
Yeah.
catalyst inviting us to create curiosity in our lives, we'll stay in complacency. Everything will stay as it is. And catalysts, appear in our lives in different ways. For me,
Yeah.
mine was a divorce, right? And even
Yeah.
before I became an entrepreneur, mine was feeling like, is this all to my career? Is this it? Like I've learned
Right.
as much as I can learn in this role. Is there anything else to do? And as I was moving and navigating through the journey of my career, there were parts where it just wasn't exciting. It was just flat. And it
Right.
was like, why does it keep getting flat? Like, what is going on? So a catalyst really is an important, opportunity that
Yeah.
invites you to question where you are in the moment of time in your life and really ask yourself deep questions. And so
Yeah.
that's what I needed to ask myself was, what happened? Where did I shift? How did I get off course? And
Ooh.
what is possibly next for me? And who do I need to be? This is an important question. Who do
Yeah.
I need to be, in order to step into the next level of my life?
Right.
So I would say and encourage the listeners to think about adjectives. Who do you
Hmm.
need to be, to embrace the becoming of who you really are? And that's how the boldness continually thrives in my life, is asking that question. And every action that I do as I become, is that the true path of who I
Yeah.
feel that I am in this moment in life? And no longer am I waiting for a major catalyst to happen. There are times, Kate and everyone else, I will cause the catalyst to happen so that I can get out of my comfortability.
Ooh. What do you mean by that? Like, what kind of catalyst?
Well, in my career, so I do career coaching. I also do work. I'm a workforce development trainer in the corporate space as well. I'm an author
Wow.
and an international speaker as well. And so I'm always looking for opportunities that will take me out of my comfort zone. I remember becoming an international speaker. A good friend slash colleague of mine had invited me to speak at this conference in India. I had never I think on the other side of the planet, the other continents, the
Yeah.
only place I had been at that time was Rome. And I had never thought about Asia. I think I thought about it by looking at it, but I never saw myself. And so when she put
Right.
that invitation forward to me, Kate, and I was like, I said, my mouth said yes before my brain caught up with my mouth, and before it caught up with my wallet. And so
Yeah.
I said, okay, I'm going to do this thing. And I wrote an abstract and sent it to the organization and accepted my talk. And I was like, I am going to Asia. I'm going to India. And so it was one of those opportunities that someone presented to me, and I was fine in my business. I was going
Yeah.
along to get along in my business. I didn't need to go, to Asia
Right.
to go speak at a conference. But it was one of those opportunities where it was like, I wonder what that would be like. I wonder, who do I need to be to go over to India? And, especially coming from Louisiana, born and raised in the South, the closest I got to international travel was National Geographic.
Yeah.
so like, who am I to go to, another country, another a city within a country, like where the predominant language is their native language, right?
Right.
And so I put myself on the plane, and I actually started telling people that, because that was another way to really keep me from going back.
What were you telling people?
I
That
was
you were going?
I was telling people I'm going to India. I had no clue how I
Yes.
was going to get there. I had no clue what the journey was going to look like, but I just said I'm going to India to speak. And I started
Yeah.
readying myself to go. And part of the readying was telling people that I was going. And I'll tell you what's really interesting when you step into your boldness, how many people really come to support you, and how
Hmm.
the universe shows up to support you. So I was doing a webinar for my company, and I had mentioned this. It was 5 of us in the webinar, including me, right? And
Okay.
so I had mentioned to the ladies in the webinar about me going to India. We were talking about what's next in the upcoming year. And so I said I was going to India. And one of the ladies said, we got to get Vaneese to India. We have to help her get there. That sounds really nice. And I said, oh, thank
Yeah.
you all. I appreciate you. When I got the webinar, she called me and she asked me, how much is it going to cost for you to get to India? And I said, the between the flight that I've, done my research on in the hotel, I said, I think it's going to cost me around $1,500, to go.
Right.
She says, okay, done. I said, wait, what do you mean done? She says, I'm sponsoring you to go to India. She said, check your PayPal. My phone beeped while I'm talking to her. She sponsored me with $2,000 to go to India round trip, to be able to really step into my international speaking career and to impact women on the other side of the world. So the moral
Wow.
of that story is that when you disrupt yourself out of your complacency and comfortability and step into boldness, really develop your unique confidence and find support systems. You got to believe in yourself, number one. Number two, you got to
Yeah.
trust that the universe is going to give to you what it is that you're asking for. But number three, you've got to start telling the right people in your circle, because you never know what opportunity, what support system. It's just kind of like the universe is, oh my goodness, she is so serious. She's telling everybody. We got to help her. And all the help
Yes.
came. All the help came. She sponsored me one time, but she also sponsored me my second time. I didn't even know it.
Ooh.
And we hadn't even talked. I just one day I had posted that I was going again to speak, again, I had been invited back, and I'm shopping to get ready and my phone goes off. I see this PayPal notification, you have money, and I'm like, that's weird, because I didn't send anybody money. That's weird. And when I went to look at where the money came from, it came from her. And then the email said, I want to support you to continuing to impact the women of the world.
And I mean, you don't get those opportunities if you don't say yes, if you don't put yourself out there. And to your point, if you don't tell people, no one can help you. And all of us need a helping hand, one here and there, or at the very least, man, it sure is nice to get a break once in a while by having
Yeah.
someone help you out,
Yeah.
Shoot. And I love this, women helping women.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, this is mission critical these days, folks. We all got to have each other's backs. And I love hearing stories like this. That gave me goosebumps over here.
Ooh, ooh. Yeah, it really
Like,
surprised me too. It gave me goosebumps as well. And I cried the first time
I
that she talked
bet.
to me. I cried, and I felt a sense of responsibility to manage that opportunity, to ensure that I was impacting the world the way that I had intended to set out, that I was stepping and
Yes.
standing into my boldness the way that I had set out to do. And when you
Right.
feel that sense of responsibility, not only to yourself, but to other people around you, it kind of can help hold your feet to the fire. And it wasn't pressure. It was like, I really just want to do a great job. I really
Yeah.
want to make sure that I'm being a demonstration for other people. So we do that
Yeah.
when we step into the authenticity of who we are. We can actually create space for other people to be themselves.
I love that last piece. You're absolutely right. When you allow yourself to be who you are, your genuine
Mhm,
self, you
mhm.
are giving everyone else permission to do the same thing. And
Yeah,
isn't that what it's all about? Don't we all just want to live our lives, love who we want to love, do what we want to do, and just feel like we can be us and feel like we still belong? Like, I think that
yeah,
that's really worth emphasizing. Let me go back to something. You
yeah,
know, you said first you have to believe in yourself.
yeah,
I work with a lot
yeah.
of women executives. I know you work with a lot of women executives
I do.
too. I still encounter women, these women who are so smart and are accomplished, and
Hmm.
yet they lack confidence, and sometimes it's holding them back from taking the
Hmm.
next step.
Hmm.
What do you tell people, or what do you suggest people do when they're struggling to believe in themselves? Maybe they just got laid off from a job. I have someone
Yeah,
who just got
yeah,
laid off from a job after 20 years. Like, how do
yeah.
you help someone boost their confidence?
It's not a cookie cutter, kind of process to do that. I
Yeah.
think the first thing that, is an opportunity is to really give yourself acknowledgement. I think a lot of times when major challenges happen in our lives, I'll go back to that time of my divorce, is I didn't acknowledge that I had done the best I could do. I had shown up consistently, intentionally, purposefully, and I gave it my all. And
Yeah.
it meant something to me to say that, to validate my own self from the inside out.
Yeah.
Most times we're looking for people to validate us from the outside in. And when we're looking for people to validate us externally, it never happens. It never
Yeah.
happens. And I don't think that people are mean per se, where they're like, I'm just not
Mhm.
going to validate you and acknowledge you. But even
Right.
if they did, they never give it to us the way that we can give it to ourselves. So
Yeah.
anyone, if you are facing a major, crossroad in your life, and things didn't turn out as you had hoped they would, had strived for those things to turn out in that particular way, then I want you to really stop and give yourself credit. Look yourself in the mirror. I talk to myself in the mirror all the time. Me and the mirror are like besties. And it took a while for me to get used to my bestie, right? The
Yeah.
reflection of who I am. And I tell myself I did my best. I gave
Yeah.
my all. I showed up. Sometimes I showed out. I participated, I collaborated, I gave everything in this moment in time. And I
Yeah.
also give thanks and gratitude for the opportunity of the timeline. Because had it not been for that experience, perhaps I would have not developed, fine tuned the skill set, or perhaps, been able to accept the invitation to be bold, becoming out loud daily for the next level of who I am. Sometimes,
Wow.
Kate, we stay too long in situations. We
Amen to
do.
that.
We stay too long waiting for the external acknowledgement to come to us. And we wait for other people to validate us externally versus validating ourselves internally. So when people say to me, and this might seem a little shallow to people, but I want you to take it in the spirit of boldness. When people give me a compliment, they say, "Oh, you look nice." I said, "Thank you." But inside of my head, I'm like, I know,
Yeah.
I know. I checked myself
Have
out
you,
before I left. I know.
Vaneese, have you seen the Barbie movie yet?
I have not. I have not.
Okay. Okay, so one of the best things, and this is not going to ruin the movie or anything.
Uh-huh.
One of the best things about the movie is it's in Barbie world. So it's
Yeah.
the women are on top, like they rule the world. And so when someone pays them a compliment, like one of the women, one of the Barbies ended up on the Supreme Court of
Hmm.
Barbie Land. And
Hmm.
when they said, congratulations, she said, thank you, I earned it. And those were the responses that women gave when
Yeah,
they were
yeah,
when they received a compliment. They said, "Thank you, I earned it,"
yeah,
or "Thank you, I
yeah,
know," but
yeah,
in a polite, sweet way. But
yeah,
it was like, yeah, I did do that, and
yeah.
maybe we don't need to vocalize it to everyone, but we do need to do that with ourselves.
We need to tell ourselves, we need to vocalize it to ourselves
Yep.
before I step into doing any webinars, even this morning,
Yeah.
before I step into doing any trainings, before I step into going out on any events, right? Anything that I'm doing, I always boost my confidence up, because here's the reality: that divorce put me in a place of low self-esteem, and I'm going to tell the truth on that, right?
Yep.
And I think it's important, even if you're in a career space, right? And you're in an environment, and this environment is a toxic environments cannot support high self-esteem and confidence. They can't. And if you
Yep.
think that being in an environment is going to get you high confidence, and a toxic environment is going to get you high confidence and healthy self-esteem, it's not. Because
Mm-mm.
what it does is it gives you the perpetual conversation of, I'm not good enough, I need to do more, I need to do more of this, I need to give up more than that, hopefully they will see me this time,
Right.
versus when you feel confident in a toxic environment, you walk in there one day and you'll be like, this is not the place for me, because it is a lot of toxicity going on, so it's time for me to get my resume out there, start networking, and get out, you know and it's important to be around other women and other people, other men as well,
Yep.
who really acknowledge you. I have a lot of men in my circle that always acknowledge me and give me compliments and
Yes.
give me high fives. So really, you got to check your squad.
It's so funny that's where you went next, because I was literally scribbling a note that says check the right people, or
Yes,
choose the
yes,
right people, because who you surround yourself with absolutely impacts how you view yourself and how
yes,
confident you are. And man, sometimes that is a tough part of life,
yeah.
realizing when you've
Mhm,
outgrown certain folks, but
mhm,
it's a critical part, because if you really want to be the best version of yourself, you really need to
mhm.
surround yourselves in with an environment that's healthy and with people who
Yeah,
are also like-minded,
yeah.
in that way.
Yeah, you
So I
you
love
have
that
to
you
do
said
that.
that.
So remember, I said too that sometimes we stay too long in environments, in situations, in friendships, in
Yeah.
circles. Sometimes we stay too long in those places, and we're looking for those places to support us and feed us and nurture us, but it's not there anymore. And nothing's
Yeah.
wrong with those people per se, but it's
Right.
just that you have evolved. You are in your
Yeah.
becoming, and it
Yeah.
no longer works. I mean, when we look back at Oprah, Oprah had a successful TV show. She did not need to leave that
Right.
show. She didn't need to leave that show, but she knew that there was a greater calling on her life, and she had to give up the good so she could become great.
Yes. That's a good example. That's a great example to use. Yeah. It made me think of something else. It'll come back to me
Mhm.
about resetting. I'll think of it. It'll come
Yeah,
back up,
yeah,
of
it'll come
course,
back.
later
Yep,
on.
yep, of course.
So, what would you say about, okay, we're talking about building
Hmm.
confidence. We've kind of,
Hmm.
now we're feeling better about ourselves. How do we cultivate boldness in
Yeah,
our personal and professional lives? Like, what are
yeah,
some tips to,
yeah.
how can people feel bolder, or maybe have the bravery, the courage it takes to be bold?
Yeah. What I'm going to go back to the acronym above my head, the parts that you all can
Yes.
see. I want to talk about BIG. BIG stands for building in your genius. Here's the reality: we all have at least one area of genius that we were all born with. And if you tap into that genius, and if you go down the rabbit hole with that genius, then you can shift your life and the life of your family and the community around you in an
Yes.
exponential way. So here's what I mean by that. So, I am a talker. There is no
No.
mistake. I know, no, right? I always tell people I'm still in therapy around this. Like, you talk a lot, lady. You talk. But here's the deal: talking is my gift. That's what I was born with, is to be audible, is to talk in the world. Now, it's what I say from my throat chakra, right? That's going to be important,
Yeah.
in my ajna. So it's
Yes.
important that I'm clear about what I say and what I share. However, I have built a career entirely on talking. I built a career on this. I went deep with that. So, I'm an entrepreneur, as I mentioned earlier, but I'm in the position where I'm talking all the time. I'm coaching, training, speaking,
Yes.
facilitating. I do MC events, right? I'm a keynote speaker. I'm an author. I do my own audio recordings. So every time I'm a podcast guest consistently. You're my
Yeah.
second one this week. But I have really built my career on talking, and I've worked
Yeah.
on fine tuning my skill and my gift of talking. So I have been in speaker bureaus. I've worked
Yeah.
with a coach. I've listened to myself talk, so that I can find my particular cadence. I've fine tuned my voice. My octaves of my voice. So I spent time, and I still spend time, really crafting. How I show up with that talent, and I literally have created my lifestyle. Talking supports my entire lifestyle. So when we build in our genius, then and go deep with that genius, it is a way that invites us to continually, I don't want to say reinvent, but continually
Mhm.
up level ourselves, into
Yes.
the next level. Because some people can say, well, Vaneese, I talk all the time in my job and I haven't been able to build a career around that. And I would ask you, so here's what you can do. Here's kind of the test, or should I say the invitation to bring
Mhm.
you closer into your gift. It has to be something that you love to do, and it has to be something that you do effortlessly. That,
Mm.
that thought and that knowledge is not old and not misplaced. They always say, what did you like to do when you were a child?
Right.
I used to get in trouble in school for talking in class, and I used to have to write notes, lines. I will not talk in class, in addition to my homework. I think the most I've ever written is 150 lines in one night to turn in the next day because I was talking in class. So,
Woo wee.
but right, right. So when I go back to that, I think
Mhm.
about, oh my goodness, I used to get in trouble for that. And also I am really great at strategizing. I'm really great at taking things apart. I'm not an engineer, and I don't
Mhm.
profess, or that's not a direction that I want to go in. But what that means for me and my career and how I've leveraged that is I'm really great at figuring out at hearing what's wrong, and then really listening to what people don't say, so that I can help them to
Oh,
figure out what's really going on. So we
right.
all have been given, at least one, some of us multiple, right? But when you go deep with that, here's the question you get to ask yourself to invite you into the spaces of depth with your gift. What else can I do with this? What else can I do
Mm.
with this? What else can I do with this? Continue to ask yourself, what else? If you're a project manager, what else can I do with my project management skills? Okay, I'm great at helping people to organize, their thoughts, organize the process. What else can I do, with organizing processes? I can help people to create outlines. What else can I do to help people to create outlines? So when
Yeah.
you keep going with the what else, what else, what else, it will put you in that state of being big, Kate. It will invite you to look at your career, the work you do through different lens, and it will
Yeah.
give you the opportunity to say, "Ooh, I'm going to step into. I'm just going to give that a try," and that is stepping into your boldness. That's being big with it.
I love that. And I can, a lot of it resonates with me because I think that way. And I think becoming a business owner helped me to
Yeah.
think that way
Mhm.
because you're always having to innovate. How do I get a new customer? What is it?
Yeah.
What's the new
Yeah.
marketing trick I'm going to try? But I think what it requires, and you sort of touched on this, is we have to be introspective
We
on
have
a
to
regular basis and
consistently.
reflect on what's going right, what's not, and reflect on, am I still going in a direction that I even want to be going in? Because
Yeah.
sometimes we say, and I'm speaking for myself,
Hmm.
sometimes I say yes, 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 yes. And then I'm like, I go back 3 yeses and I'm like, did I even really want to do that? Or am I just
Right.
saying yes
Right.
because I don't want to be mean or hurt someone's feelings? And then I realize I'm like, sometimes I need to take a step back
Yeah.
and make sure I'm being very intentional about what I'm agreeing to do to make sure that I'm honoring something that aligns with my purpose in an
Yeah.
authentic way. So
Yeah.
I love that
Yeah.
you touched on that. And then also honing your craft. This
Yeah.
is so critical. And I think if you are naturally curious, this becomes almost a second habit or very natural to you to want to continue to get better because we're always asking questions.
Yeah.
How does this work? Or,
Yeah.
how can I make this better? So I think those
Yeah.
are really great tips. What about incorporating boldness into someone's brand? And I don't necessarily mean like a bright red color,
Yeah,
but like, how do we show up as bold without being flashy? I don't even know if that's the right way to frame that question.
Oh yeah. And boldness is not about being flashy. Boldness is your
Good
unique
distinction.
level of confidence. It's what's your unique level of confidence and how do you want that to come across? There are people that we all have been to events and we've been in the room with some amazing people, but there's oftentimes a person who steps in the room and you could feel their energy. And people are like, oh, who is that? I want to find out who that is. The person hasn't said anything. They have not made an announcement. They just stepped into the room. So, number one thing is confidence. Developing self-confidence is going to be the foundation to you, developing your boldness. Number two is find your level of bold. My level of bold is red hair. I'm always wearing something that's trendy, something that's stylish. But I always call whatever I wear and whatever I do, I said, this is so Vaneese. Like
I love that.
I know my style and I own my style,
Yes.
and I'm not looking for approval from anyone else about my style. So someone may have a quiet boldness. So your boldness maybe you express that in how you write because you're able to pick certain words and phrases, right? Maybe your boldness is how you show up in collaboration. You create space for other people to be who they are and you support them in their becoming, right? Maybe your boldness is loud. Maybe you are the person that you know how to show up and galvanize, the people in the room because maybe that's what's needed. Maybe your boldness is one that is inspirational, it's impactful. So you have to really think about your boldness, but come from the place of confidence and work on your confidence before you try to become bold. Don't try to do it the way because confidence leads to boldness. Boldness doesn't lead to confidence. Confidence leads to boldness.
Ooh, that's an important distinction to make. So outside of lacking confidence, what would you say are other like common barriers for people struggling to come into their boldness? Or do you see that's really the major one?
Oh yeah. Let me tell you another one that's really major for people is telling yourself the truth, self-truth.
Ooh.
I'm going to tell you, as this is what I had to go through as I was going through my journey of becoming, is I had to, when that divorce happened, one of the catalysts that was really important for me to embrace, and it was the hardest one to embrace, was about me telling myself the truth of my reality.
Oof.
I know, right? Isn't that powerful? Just
not always fun.
it's never fun. Now it's different for me because now I can tell myself I can tell myself the truth and be like, okay, so now we know the truth. So what's next for us, right? But tell yourself the truth. Self-truth is going to be the biggest opportunity, and invitation, opportunity to an invitation for you to really shift, into becoming. Because if you don't believe telling yourself the truth, here's another way to be truthful to yourself. Your reality is a direct demonstration of what you believe about yourself.
Oof. That's some heavy stuff.
Your reality is a direct demonstration. It's the truest form. Your reality is the truest demonstration, the truest form of what's true about you and what's going on in your life. So telling yourself the truth, and it's hard. And there were times when I cried because I was like you were saying, all the yeses. It was like I missed so many cues. And this is not about you did a bad thing. It's not about reprimanding yourself. It's about true self-truth gives you the opportunity to give yourself grace.
Oh, and we all need that. I know, especially women really struggle with this. And I struggle, and you caught me earlier. Vaneese is amazing. I said something sort of negative about something silly. It wasn't even a big deal. And Vaneese is like, wait, no, don't say that, because you learn, you iterate, and things get better. And I was like, geez, I'm like, if, and this is what I'm vocalizing to other people. You're not even hearing the worst of the way I talk to myself in my head. And so I have to constantly remind myself, Kate, you got to like be honest and accountable, but also, don't beat yourself up,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I think
Learn from it and move on.
it's interesting because as women, a lot of times we beat ourselves up, and then we call the itty bitty committee of other people who will facilitate and support us beating ourselves
Yes.
up.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have done that, and you were wrong for that. And yeah, I saw you, but I didn't say anything, and I was wondering if you was going to catch yourself. And and I just beat myself up this way. And then people say, yeah, I know, yeah, I know, but no, very seldom does someone say to you, listen, stop, no more negative talk. Let's turn this
Right.
around into a positive. It was a learning opportunity, and in that moment in time, you did the best you could with what you had. So I'm going to need you to give yourself some grace. I'm going to give you grace as well, because I believe in you. And I know that it was a moment in time that
Yeah.
experience happened, and that you did the best you could in that time frame. So it's important to be able to tell yourself the truth, give yourself some grace as you're telling yourself the truth. And it's really an opportunity, whatever you went through, you learned so much in that experience that you actually have the opportunity to cherry pick the skills that you developed from that experience and turn them into helping to support you being big, building in your genius. Nothing goes to waste in the universe. That includes your experiences in your life, in your career, in your relationships. Nothing goes to waste. It is all useful to help you to grow to the next level.
I think, I mean, A, that is 100% truth, but B, like, that knowledge is critical for us to
Yeah.
move forward, right? You got to believe that. You got to
You
embrace
you
it.
have you and you do need to you have to have something to really inspire you to believe in about yourself, because the
Yes.
world itself and what happens in the world is that it will make you shrink yourself if you pay too much attention to what people are doing in these other social media platforms, and you
Yeah.
you will inadvertently start to judge yourself against what other people are doing. And you're the smartest cookie in the room, and you're like, oh, I would never do that. But trust me,
Right.
watch too many of those videos of people doing these things that you feel like you aspire to be, or you feel like that's where you should be.
Yeah.
Watch too many of those videos, and you're going to find yourself questioning your genius.
Yeah. That's a really good point. That's that's a really good point. So let me so some people associate boldness
Mhm.
with fearlessness.
Mm,
Would you agree? And if so, how do you manage people's fears
yeah.
so they can become more bold? And maybe this is sort of tied in with helping people become more confident, but what do you say to clients, or how do you advise them?
It's interesting because fear is like one of these perpetual states of being that we just inadvertently as humans promote. We were
Yeah.
not born with a spirit of
Yeah.
fear. We were not born with a spirit of fear. If you don't believe me, look at children. Look at children.
For real.
Children, they are the most fearless beings in the entire universe. If you tell a child, if a child sees the moon and says, I want to go there, and you say you can't go there, and they're like, okay, why not?
Right.
They will start to find a way to get to the moon. you know
Yes.
you and I know that what it may take to get there, but in their mind they have no idea the mechanics of what it's going to take to get to the moon.
Yeah.
When we look at children beginning to walk, there's an urge, there's a pulling that they respond to, so that they can be able to make a next move. So fear is
Right.
something that's inherently just been spoon fed to us, and we've just adopted the belief that fear is real now, right? Now,
Yeah.
I'm not talking about when you're in a situation and you got to make a life or death decision,
Right.
but that in itself, isn't necessarily fear. It's about you having to make a decision and you're not clear about what's right or wrong. And that's where fear comes in. Fear, doesn't give you, fear allows you to stay in the place of uncertainty. Fear allows you to vacillate between, well, what
Mm,
if that didn't work out, and then this ain't gonna work out, then if I do that, then that's gonna, so that's what fear does. Fear allows you to vacillate between all of the scenarios about why something doesn't work.
right.
Now, on the opposite side of that, you get to challenge fear. Well, I'm saying to myself that that could not work, but how do I know if that's true? So I'm going to need to test this out to kind of see if this is really true. So
Right.
fear really turn that into an opportunity of an invitation for you to test it out. Test out if it was true. Listen, when the boldness coach was birthed and born, I'm like, who's going to be listening to somebody calling themselves a boldness coach? So I said, I'm going to give it a try. What's the worst case that could happen? Somebody could say, you crazy calling yourself the bonus coach. And even if they said that, I'd have been like, okay, I'm talking to the wrong person. Let me go over here to
Yeah.
this side over on this side and see on that side, right? And
Mhm.
so I think it's really important to recognize, where is fear coming from? How are you feeding into fear? Are you making fear
Mm,
a reality for you? And
right.
I think the bigger question from a self truth perspective is, how have you been allowing fear to run your life? And remember, your reality is the truest form of demonstration of truth for you. So if you've been waiting for that promotion and you've been working hard to get it and it hasn't happened, and then you feeling like this is never going to happen, nobody's ever going to see me, and you just keep, just cowering down and stop doing less, you succumb to that. Nobody sees me and I'm angry and upset about it. Versus, you know what? I haven't been seen in the way that I was hoping I would be seen here. So I'm going to pick up my toys at the sandbox and I'm going to go someplace else where
Yep.
I can be able to see if I would be valued in this place. If that place doesn't work, I'm going to go someplace else to see if I'll be valued in that place. Now, I want to say this as a caveat, is that I don't want I don't want to come across like I'm
Mhm.
Pollyanning this, like ta-da, click your heels, wave your wand, bam, and it's all good. But I
Right.
want people to know that, right? I want people to know that there are other areas in your life that you also need to get in place, so that when you step into your boldness, it supports you moving into confidence. So if you're saying
Mm,
that you want to elevate in your career, then what are things that you need to get in place that will squash the fear factor, right?
right.
And are you developing your network and strengthening your network? Are you supporting other people while asking for support, right? Have you
Right.
updated your resume? Have you made an investment with a coach? Whether that's an interview coach, whether that's a career coach, right? Have you made an
Right.
investment to go to a conference? Have you updated your skills? Maybe perhaps, going to get certified if that is important for the level that you're going. So
Right.
look at the totality, of what it is that how you want to become, right? And then step into those, and your confidence is going to start boosting. You're going to meet people, they're going to introduce you to people,
Yes.
you're going to have deeper conversations around things that you didn't even know people were talking about, but that you were thinking about. So it's going to invite you
Yes.
into the next level, and you're going to get to that place. And when you stop and realize and acknowledge yourself in the mirror, you're going to be like, I'm here. Like, oh my goodness. I
I'm
built
doing
this.
it.
I'm doing it. I'm here. So fear is something that's spoon fed to you. Challenge what fear you, whatever you're saying around the fear aspect, challenge that. Challenge it.
Yeah. Yeah. Huh. That's so interesting. I mean, I'm making some big life decisions
Mm-hmm.
myself, and
Mm-hmm.
it's actually about moving abroad to Spain or Portugal. And so it's
Mm-hmm.
something that I'm either planning to do in the next couple years or in the next 10 years. And
Mm-hmm.
so I'm telling people, I'm
Yeah.
populating the idea. This is what my plans are, and starting to attract the kind of people that I need to
Yeah.
help or
Yeah.
advise me or to
Yeah.
meet abroad or whatever. But it's really easy sometimes to sink into the fear of, or hearing other people say, well, why would you want to do that? Or it's not that easy to do that. Or why would you think that would be okay? It's so I get sunk into this fear. And then I realize the only way that I get out of it is, okay, today I'm going to spend 20 minutes. I'll do a little research. Let me see if I can
Yeah.
find a Facebook group in Spain for my
Exactly.
Latin dance. Getting
Exactly.
closer to my goal, proving that it is possible. But
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
you got to push yourself to do this stuff,
You
people.
do. So that leads me to the last acronym on this side about
Ooh,
being bad. Bad stands for being audaciously daring.
ooh, I love
You know,
this.
we have to really develop an attitude of audacity. You know,
Yeah.
we have to have the nerve to do a thing, right? And
Yes.
I'm gonna share with you just a little bit based on what you said about you moving to Spain. Number one, I think that is amazing. I think how fun and how exciting is your life going to shift to being in an environment where you get to be brand new and you get to discover, what's around you, and you get to
Yeah.
learn new skills and be curious. Like, there's just so much richness and juiciness there, right? So I'm going to tell you how to way to up your game and step into your boldness, your bigness, and your badness with this. Listen, you get to rent you an Airbnb. Go stay for first. You stay for 2 weeks in Spain. Then you come back and you stay for 3 weeks in Spain. Then you come back and you stay 6 weeks in Spain. You don't have to move. You just go and stay. So pack up your bags, find you an Airbnb over in Spain, and stay, because when you stay longer too, the cost is cheaper when you do an Airbnb.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
go to Spain, Kate. Don't wait. Don't wait. Don't
Girl,
get off the Facebook.
guess what? I'm going to Spain. I
Yeah.
am going to Spain. I'm going to Portugal, and I'm going to Portugal. This is a little plug for career thought leaders. If you're a career professional in here, I'm going to Portugal in Lisbon for the symposium 2024 in April, and it's going to be
Yes,
fabulous. And I'm
yes,
extending my trip
yes.
to spend time in Spain, and I am looking at Airbnbs for extended stays. So I'm taking those steps. Like, I'm going to do this. And you know what? If I decide I don't want to do it, I don't want to do it. Fine. But at least I'll have explored something that's
You right,
meaningful and exciting
right.
to me.
And at least you
Yeah.
you will have your own data. You have your own data,
Yeah.
your own data to be able to say one way or the other. So I love that you're
Yes.
extending your stay in that. I would say also sign up for cooking classes, for cooking
Yes.
Spanish dishes. I would
Yes.
also say, take go to do wine tasting on wines that are grown in Spain, so you can develop
Yes.
your palate and your knowledge around, the food and the wine of the area.
I love it.
I would say look at the style, the Spanish style of people, and and the women, and start embodying that, as you're, moving through your regular day where you are.
Yeah.
I would invite you to sign up and take language classes to learn that type of Spanish that's on the Spain side, right?
Yep.
And so those are things that you do to pull yourself in closer and closer to it. And the more you pull yourself closer into it and step into your boldness, right?
Yeah.
Becoming, and then step into your bigness, building in your genius, your ability to be able in developing your cultural intelligence, right? And also cultural assimilation. And then stepping
Yeah.
into your badness is being audacious to do whatever could possibly be next, to support you in that dream. And now you have it. You are stepping in and owning your bold, big, and bad.
Yes, and I already started Latin dance lessons a couple months ago, so that I'm going to be able to like get my groove on the dance floor. I'm going to be. They're going to already think that I lived there for years by the time I get there. That's my
No, and
goal.
it's about
We'll
you, and
see.
it's really about you feeling a level of assuredness about yourself. It's like, oh, I can do this. I can. I was
Yeah.
talking. I was talking to my developer that works with me on my CRM yesterday, and she's in Thailand, and She's from South Africa, and she's teaching, English in Thailand. And she said, I'm
Ooh.
quitting my job tomorrow. She said, because my business is, my job is getting in the way of me growing my business. And I said, so are you going to stay in Thailand, or what are you going to do? And she says, I'm going to stay here for a while. And until my visa runs out, and then I'm traveling all, Southeast Asian countries. And I said,
Wow.
how fun. But at
I
one
think so
time, I
too.
used to I used to say at one time when I was, first when I started my first business, I owned a temporary staffing agency. And one of the ladies that had a marketing company, she actually sold her business, and she did a co-lease agreement for her place in San Francisco. And she and her husband, they traveled through Australia and Southeast Asia. And I just thought to myself at that time, I was like, I would be so afraid. I would be so scared. Why
Right.
would you do that? But that was because at that time in my career, basically, me and again, around the people that I was around, and I didn't have the foresight that what could be possible for me beyond this place.
Yeah.
I was just so busy head down trying to navigate and to make everybody comfortable around me and assimilate in that
Yeah.
level of comfortability for people that I didn't have the capacity to dream bigger for myself. Now,
Right.
a friend called me last night, talked about Morocco, an opportunity in Morocco.
Ooh.
And I said, when are we going? I said, I'm going before December. So now this morning I woke up like, okay, I got to get my calendar together for Morocco. And then
Yeah.
she also called me and said, I'm going to Brazil. You want to come? And I'm like, yes. She said, there's going to be an opportunity to speak in Brazil. So possibly I may be celebrating Women's History Month in Brazil, speaking on a platform to an audience of women of Brazil, South America, in Brazil.
Wow.
So when people ask me those things now and it resonate with my heartstrings, Kate, I'm like, I'm in. I don't ask about how much it's gonna
Yeah.
cost. I don't worry about what am I gonna do with my business. I'm like, I'm in. I got time to plan it and I can make this happen.
Yes. I love that attitude. And that's how things happen. And it's funny because earlier on when we were talking, you were talking about you have to dream, right? You have to be able to imagine these things, but then you have to do. You
Yeah.
got to
Yeah.
execute. You just got to
100%.
start. And that's the hardest part, but I can tell you from my own experience going through divorce, motherhood, starting a business, leaving corporate America, you just need to have faith
Yeah.
that things are going to shake out. We're all intelligent people. No one knows us better than ourselves. So we have to
Right.
trust
Right.
our instincts. That was
Right.
something else I was going to mention is
Mhm.
being really trusting our intuition when we're
Yeah.
doing our self-reflection and being honest about our honest with ourselves, I think is really key.
Yeah.
Before we jump off, I want to make sure that people have access to a couple things.
Yeah.
First of all, and I'm going to put this up here, this is, well, I'll let you speak. Tell everyone
Okay.
what they're getting if they sign up for your newsletter.
So sign up for the newsletter. Number one, you get to keep in touch with me. You get to
Yes.
keep in touch with me. You get to hear, the things that I'm doing in my business and the world. And I'm re-upping my newsletter. So that's going to be good. So August is not August. I'm sorry. I'm like stuck on vacation mode. October is going to be the launch of our new newsletter. So make sure that you subscribe to that. And when you subscribe to the new newsletter, there's some juicy downloads that you get. I think it's like a packet of downloads that you get. And
Nice.
then the other freebie that I have that Kate's going to put up is about the
Yep.
4 beliefs. These are 4 top beliefs, and I'm not telling you what they are. You can read the ebook,
Mm.
and it's a short book, and it's a work kind of book slash workbook. You can read about what could possibly be getting in the way, because here's the
Mm.
reality: we make beliefs facts. Beliefs are not facts. Here's a fact: rocks are hard, water is wet. That's a fact. A belief is something that you get to shift, you get to change, you get to challenge. And we get to create new beliefs whenever we need to move forward to the next level. I believe that I can do this. I believe that Spain is a welcoming country. I believe the
Yeah.
people in Spain are going to receive me, with open arms. I believe that I'm going to be learn so much culturally from Spain. So when you shift your belief systems to get in alignment with what you dream for yourself, you know, there's so much that can happen for you. So sign up.
Yes. So at the bottom is the boldnesscoach.com for beliefs. Make sure you get that and definitely sign up for the newsletter. I love all the juicy stuff that comes with that. And if you'd like to reach out to Vaneese or myself, we have all of our contact information up. I'll leave that there for a minute. If anyone has any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. I have a couple minutes before we wrap up. Vaneese, before we let everyone get back to their Friday afternoon, is there any parting advice or anything you want to leave with people to invite them to become more bold?
Yeah. Here's what I encourage you to do is to have the moment of have a talk of self-truth with yourself. I encourage you to do that. Really find a space to do that quietly, whether that's, get in your car and drive, get you a cup of coffee and drive someplace, turn your rear view mirror on yourself, look in your eyes and talk, to yourself. I also would encourage you to just really have some time to be introspective and reflective, have some time to really to journal, really journal,
Mhm.
and write out a letter to yourself. And when you write that letter to yourself, as well as when you're looking in the mirror, to yourself and looking in your eyes or your face talking, is also give yourself some grace.
Yeah.
Give yourself some grace and say, hey, girl, you have done an amazing job. With everything that you've done, you used everything that you knew how to use. You did the best you could. You showed up, you participated, and now it's time for us to go to the next level. And if
Yes.
it's the reverse of that, if tell yourself the truth. Hey, girl, you were here, but you didn't participate. You didn't show up. You didn't collaborate, and you wanted a different outcome, and that didn't happen in part because you didn't really show up. So we're at the crossroads of what we get to choose. So I'm with you, girl. Whatever you choose, I'm with you. So now we can make a choice. And I want you to give yourself some grace on not making that choice at that time, because again, you did
Mhm.
the best you could with the information that was available to you for that choice.
I love it. Those are great parting words. Vaneese, it has been such a pleasure. I've had lots of little giggles. It's been fun. I feel like I got to know you a little bit
Yes.
better. And I know that this is energized. I've been kind of peering through the comments here and there, and I
Mhm.
know that it's inspiring a lot of other people who have been listening in. So a big hug and lots of gratitude for you and your time. Thank you for
Mhm.
joining. And yes, don't forget, let's see what she got. Yes, thank you. No permission needed. All about it.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And thank you for everyone who's joined in with us. I will be announcing the next month's Ask Kate Anything shortly, so stay tuned. Otherwise, I hope everyone has a terrific weekend. See you next time.